Hey there! The topic of this video is mixed voice, and I'm going to share some ideas about mixed voice, some exercises that I've found useful, and maybe share a couple of sort of warnings about what not to do to avoid getting stuck with practicing your mixed voice and making it better. But to get started, let's first define what is mixed voice. Well, maybe I just give a couple of examples for starters. First of all, when we talk about mixed voice, already the mix part of that term kind of refers that we are not moving in any like extreme ends of the spectrum. So we are not probably talking about hey ooh, bit of a morning voice there. Ooh, anything like that. That's my this morning's falsetto head voice, I guess. Anyways, and we are not either talking about anything like hey, which would be, in my opinion, a little bit more something that is done in the other extreme, in the kind of the chest register place, or somebody would, for instance myself, would call that one belting. But mixed voice is probably something that is a little bit more subtle, that still has kind of the strength that falsetto lacks. And also a big part of it is singing above the register break area, which in my case would be around E4. So if I would be starting from C, go in. That's A4. In. That's high C. So also the good thing about mixed voice is that you don't have to be that yelly compared to singing in like pure belting chest register. And if I would sing something other than those impressive scales, I could go maybe, let's do something starting from A4. Baby, I've been here before. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's not the same. Oh. So basically I was going pretty high in the male kind of pitch range, and moving across my register break area without making a very noticeable register break, at least I hope. So how to develop your mixed voice? Let's start with the fact that very often when somebody who has just started practicing vocal technique starts to tackle the problem of mixed voice, very often the problem would be that you don't have sufficient vocal fold closure, and you have a bit of air in the sound, which can carry to a degree, but often exactly at the register break area you might run into problems, and you have difficulties maintaining your vocal folds vibrating in a way that you are not moving to head voice or falsetto. That would basically be this issue that you likely are familiar with. Anyways, so before showing you exercises about how to tackle that issue and how to kind of practice the sort of firm vocal fold closure that you need for mixed voice, or at least the kind of easy mixed voice, I'm gonna talk about another issue. And that would basically be the fact that very often when people have done these mixed voice exercises and learn to do the kind of the initial settings and have the muscles doing somewhat correct things, moving things here in correct places, then they use the same exercises, voice exercises, that they initially found some help out of. They continue doing them like months and months and maybe even years and years, and in a hope that they think that doing this that as long as they do these exercises more and more and more, they will kind of develop their mixed voice singing. And that's not so, because if you continue practicing those, you will be basically practicing doing those exercises and not singing in your mixed voice. So the second problem is that people are not like integrating the initial skill to real singing, and that way learn to really kind of perfect or master the mixed voice. I would maybe put it that way. But okay, let's dive into those issues with a little bit more detail, and let's start going through some exercises that you might use to sort of find the initial rough settings in your vocal instrument. The type of exercises that we want to use for getting the initial settings for mixed voice would be the type of exercises that apply so-called semi-occluded vocal tract. And that basically means that the air is not passing freely through our vocal tract and out of the mouth. We have some kind of semi-occlusion somewhere in the vocal tract or even outside the vocal tract that kind of resists the airflow, and it forces us to sing with less use of air, and it helps us find the coordination for getting our vocal folds more firmly together. And in the cases where somebody has really the difficulty of getting the firm vocal fold closure, I would basically start with the most occlusive type of semi-occlusion, which actually would be basically full occlusion. So if you have the problem of having too much air in the sound, you might want to start like this. Block your nose, maintain your mouth also closed, and then phonate. So you basically get this sort of a drowning sound of somebody almost being drowning or shouting under the water. So no air will escape. You might be wondering how the heck I'm going to make a sound when there is no airflow. Well, there is airflow between the vocal folds, but it doesn't escape your mouth. The air is sort of filling your cheeks and your mouth cavity. So there will be airflow and you will be able to phonate, but still you have to do it with very little airflow. Let's try a couple of times. And if you find that you don't get really good sound, that it's more like there's some kind of vocal fry, then you might want to try to add a little bit more volume. Of course, in the beginning you don't get the sound in similar fashion that I do, because I've been practicing, but this is you can think about it as sort of a muscle exercise for your muscles. When you do this for a week, you will already notice a difference, that at some point you will be able to create sound in this way. And then you can test sort of how long sound you are able to produce. That's about it for me, before it starts to come out of my ears as well. Very good. That's sort of one of the first exercises that I would go with, because it's so efficient in blocking the airflow and forcing you to do the sound with very efficient vocal fold closure. And here, bit of a warning, I mentioned that this is exercise for muscles. It doesn't mean that you have to, or you would get some benefit even for trying to squeeze with your external muscles so much. The end goal here is that you don't have to use the type of muscle effort where you really feel that you are doing a lot of work. It's okay if in the early couple of first days or even the first week maybe you feel like you are doing some squeezing quite a bit here, but just keep in mind that that doesn't help you further to build that kind of really big force with your external muscles here. With external muscles, I basically refer to muscles that are not exactly here in the center of the important part, which is the larynx, but are more in this like neck, outside in the area of neck, a little bit further from the important action, so to say. But anyways, that's the kind of one thing. Then of course you can, with this you can go, that's a poor example. You can already start experimenting by this type of voice glides higher, and even see if you can glide it that way above your register break and maintain the still maintain the kind of the vocal fold closure there. Of course you can sing scales and do even this some kind of chord arpeggios. I was aiming for this classic speech level singing pattern. But run out of air, that's pretty hard to do with this exercise unless you have a huge mouth cavity and very flexible cheeks. Anyways, let's go to the second exercise, one of my favorites. And I've in the beginning of this exercise series, I basically put a couple of exercises that are not so commonly available in YouTube, because I usually wanna contribute something new that is less used. So this is also fun exercise. What you need is a straw. You shouldn't probably use those very small thin straws that are only about 2 millimeters thick. Something like this is decent, and you might use even a little bit wide, a bigger straw with a bigger diameter. But anyway, second thing you need is a cup that has some water in it. You put the straw about 2 centimeters below the surface of the water, and then you basically do this. What you basically do, you phonate into that straw, and you can also vary the depth of the straw. The deeper you go into the water, the more it resists the sound, and it has kind of the same effect that it more and more forces you to use kind of actually it forces you to use a little bit more subglottal pressure first of all to get the sound, and it has the tendency to activate muscles more efficiently. But then again, bit of a warning there, the goal is not to build these muscles in an extreme sense. It's not, you don't need, for the kind of the easygoing mixed voice, you don't need this kind of very forced action happening there. But that is sort of the direction where you want to push your muscles a little bit. But as I sort of hinted in the beginning of the video, in long term these exercises won't get you any better mixed voice, because they don't teach you the kind of the detailed fine-tuned settings that you require for mixed voice. Okay, third variation, we might want to continue with the straw. remove it from the water cup and just so what you want to get out of this is this kind of this whining, crying type of sound. And you can, in this exercise, you can also vary the sort of the resistance for the airflow by squeezing the straw a bit, or blocking it a little bit this way. Sometimes it's when we're not doing this in the water, it's actually might be useful to, you might want to use if you get your hands into these very thin straws that I think are at least used for stirring coffee in some coffee shops, at least used to be before the kind of the world get obsessed in getting rid of all the plastic. But those might work actually pretty nicely, because we're not using the water. We might get some help of making the straw a little bit less in its diameter. But this will basically do the same thing. You can pluck half of the straw and you get this. So this is basically very much what happens in this one. But now we have some air, we're letting some air getting through. Yeah. And for the final thing regarding these initial mixed voice exercises, all those things that I'm not going to go through them in detail. You can find these type of exercises in most of speech level singing or singing success videos, where they and also they do this ga 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 ga. And the lip trill that I just did is one good exercise to experiment with. And then these exercises that use, for instance, this G, G or this G in it, and then vowel ga ga, ge ge, ga ga. Those are good because the G part of it is basically same that going like B, G. There's no air getting out of it, and it kind of right away changes to the open vowel sound, so you get the effect of G staying during the vowel. So those are kind of good next step to move towards. So start experimenting and try to move this part of this B action to the vowel sound. Ge 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 ge, and then they have this they not like that, and nay 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 nay, and n is also acts a little bit in the same manner, but it's not as air resistive as the g or b. You could go ba 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 ba. Good. So those are the sort of what I would consider very efficient initial mixed voice exercises that you definitely might want to experiment for as a start point. And the next challenge that remains would be how to get sort of removed or move away from those exercises, so that you really start to find the even more precise settings that you are able to use in the singing. I think might be actually good to put in another video. So I will make another video about the next step of learning mixed voice, how you make those required settings more automatic. Hope you liked this video. If you did, consider liking and subscribing, and check out the next video as well, where we are going to go through how to make your mixed voice more natural sounding. Bye.